Well, good evening. It's News 360 coming to you live from the News Hub here at Adesa Wekanda. I am Portia Gabo.
And I am Martin Asiedu Date. These are the headlines for the next 1 hour.
News 360 headlines is brought to you by Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal.
EcoBank.
Tonight, Odo flood victims demand urgent dredging to prevent another deadly disaster.
And also coming up tonight, residents in Teshi and Nungwa resort to desalination wastewater as worsening water shortages leave taps running only once weekly.
And still to come, minority opposes return of tribunal courts, but the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Aina, insists reforms will complement existing courts and address case backlogs.
Later in business news, an economist projects Ghana's low interest rate environment to persist in the near term, urging banks to immediately reposition their business models for a new era.
Elsewhere on the continent, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu orders corruption investigation into allegations that a fictitious government agency was set up within his own office. We have details of these stories and more, plus business, sports and entertainment all coming up.
We begin from Parliament, where the minority is rejecting the reintroduction of the tribunal court system, arguing that it could become an avenue for creating jobs for party loyalists to jail opponents. The caucus maintains the Fourth Republic has established a judicial structure comprising circuits, districts, magistrates, high courts and appeal courts, which should instead be strengthened to effectively discharge their mandates.
The Tribunals Bill 2026, which is currently at the second reading stage in Parliament, seeks to provide for the establishment, jurisdiction, composition and operations of tribunals, as well as establish the Tribunal Oversight Committee. Contributing to the debate on the Tribunals Bill 2026, the MP for Damongo, Samuel Jinapo, said the tribunal system would only revive unpleasant memories.
Why additional courts? Mr. Speaker, with the greatest of respect, why do we like to create new institutions every now and again? We have high courts. Why have regional tribunals? If you want to have more courts, you want to have more judges, you want to have more judicial staff, just follow up with what President Akufo-Addo did when he built almost 100 courts complex in our country. Let's have the existing court system. That is the judicial system in all civilized, developed countries in the world. We do not want regional tribunals. They bring about bad memories, scary memories, and bad dreams and intimidation in our country.
The Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Aina, says the reintroduction of the tribunal court system is aimed at providing ordinary Ghanaians with greater access to the justice delivery system. Dr. Aina told Parliament the tribunals would complement the traditional court and help reduce the backlog of cases.
What we are proposing to do is to allow for a panel system chaired by a chairman of the tribunal that will be a lawyer, equivalent to someone who could be appointed to become to be a justice of the High Court for the regional tribunals, and then also lawyers that qualify to be appointed to head, or to be justices of the Circuit Court, to be the chairpersons of the district tribunals. And then we will have panel members as it used to be in the past under the PNDC Law 78.
The Attorney General assured that any excess associated with the tribunal system will be addressed, with its procedures guided by the provisions of the Constitution.
This bill requires that the tribunals, when established, will comply with Chapter 5 of the Constitution. We have institutional safeguards, procedural safeguards built into the bill. We want to establish an oversight committee that will evaluate and ensure that evaluate the work of the tribunals and ensure that any excesses are reported to the Judicial Council for purposes of taking action.
Meanwhile, Parliament has passed the Community Services Bill. The bill will introduce community service as an alternative to custodial sentencing for persons convicted of specified categories of offences and other related matters. We have details of the story in our subsequent bulletins.
Right, so let's move away from Parliament and go to the communities, because as the water situation in Teshi Nungwa and adjoining communities continue to worsen, residents have been compelled to rely on wastewater from the Nungwa seawater desalination plant. With water flowing through their taps only once a week, many residents are under increasing pressure to find alternative sources. George Quaining was in the community and reports.
Charity Awudi is a first-time mother. She has not been spared from the impact of the water crisis in Nungwa and its adjoining communities. Here, water flows through resident taps only on Fridays, forcing them to seek alternative sources. This wastewater of the seawater desalination plant is what some residents use for cooking and washing. She tells me it has helped them cope with the crisis.
So it was Charity that did the whole work. I just escorted her. And, well, just look at the sweat and how I'm panting. And she's someone who delivered 3 months ago. So if she does this 3 times in a day, in a week, you can imagine how stressful it's going to be. And she tells me she's not even well. And you can actually feel it from her coughing. And so this is the trauma she goes through on a daily basis.
So you'll be suffering. I'm even panting. Very, very tired. Just 1 gallon this morning. I can't stand it because I'm very, very tired. It's been like this every day since they stopped bringing water for us. Like, this is how we're managing. So we please beg them to do something about it, because if it keeps happening like this, I don't think we can survive it, because I'm severely sick.
This is the amount of water a household used over the past week for drinking and bathing their children.
Due to the inconsistency in the flow of tap water in Nungwa, tenants rarely access this very tap. It's a reason the key to this very lock is missing and they can't really be boarded.
Hajabuna spends 350 cedis to fill this water storage tank. For the smaller containers, she spends 75 cedis on each. When operational, the seawater desalination plant serves the water needs of many households and surrounding communities. With the current situation, residents are calling on the local authorities to facilitate the resumption of its operations.
It has been a while since. It's not easy. And for some of us, we are unable to fetch water. So if we don't get people to fetch for us, it is very tedious. You can imagine how we feel. It got to a time we went the whole month without water.
Wastewater no e ba no. Eno na nkrofo na di dware. De enum de to pure water.
So boka.
Your boka pure water bag ba ko be 12 cedi.
We spend a lot on sachet water, which does not last for more than a day. Government must ensure the plant resumes operation so that our lives can be better.
Because time and so we ba no. De bia nzo obi an complain.
The Member of Parliament for Krowa and Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dr. Agnes Damomolate, said in a phone interview that the situation is being resolved. She added that, in the absence of the plant, water tankers are supplying water to residents as an interim measure. George Quaining, TV3 News, Nungwa, Accra.
More than a week after floodwaters swept vehicles into the Odor drain, owners are still digging through sand and debris to recover what remains of their livelihoods. As the drain grows shallower due to silt and accumulated waste, residents warn that without urgent dredging, the next heavy rains could trigger another deadly disaster. A report by Stanley Niblu.
The trail of destruction left by the June 29 floods remains evident across several affected communities. Major drains, including the Odor, are heavily silted with large deposits of sand and debris, reducing their capacity to carry stormwater. At Kaprais in the Okankwe South Municipality, piles of refuse continue to choke sections of the drain, obstructing the free flow of water from adjoining communities. The accumulated silt has transformed what was once a deep storm drain into a shallow channel, raising fears of renewed flooding. Haruna Idrisu, who operates a mechanic shop along the Odor, says the delay in dredging the drain leaves businesses and residents vulnerable to another disaster when the rains return. At this spot, the lifeless bodies of 2 flood victims were recovered. Haruna Idrisu says people living along the drain have not learnt any lessons from what caused the floods.
Yes, stop ball and stop baller for water inside. Stop.
Meanwhile, at Caprice, several vehicle owners were seen trying to recover cars swept into the drain by the flood waters. Some vehicles remained buried beneath thick layers of sand. Armed with spades and shovels, the men painstakingly dug through the debris to reach one of the submerged vehicles. After nearly 2 hours of digging, they finally uncovered the wreck and called in a tow truck to haul it away. The owner, Ebaba, says he is determined to repair the vehicle despite the extensive damage.
1 week my from eba member enim say accident no be si tie si ye no e na got so no be got na be e so odonum nti ye no honom de ye pese aban bebo ye ntimi yi cars na ye den en sa honestly na mechanics na have problems.
At Seko, large sections of the Odor River bed have also been buried under sand, significantly reducing the drain's depth and capacity. Residents fear that any further delay in dredging could trigger another round of devastating flash floods. The challenge is compounded by piles of refuse and debris, which continue to obstruct the free flow of water. Following the recent floods, President Mahama has directed the military to lead flood mitigation efforts across the country. As part of the exercise, personnel are expected to undertake dredging and desilting works in the Okankwe South municipality. Residents, however, say the sand and debris must be removed immediately to prevent another tragedy.
Se oma obi contract se obeyi gotanuma mo mu yi go abotin biom yen yi kanisi ho se tipa ne ba besisa tipa ya titi agum fako bebi o de kogu ebeye sip ebebu a chen se anwa we wo ha.
With another rainy spell expected in the coming days, residents say time is running out. They are urging authorities to move beyond promises and immediately dredge and clear the Odor drain, warning that every day of delay increases the risk of more lives, homes and vehicles being swept away. Stanley Niblo, TV3 News, Accra.
Very interesting scenes there, looking at how buried these cars are in the silt in the gutters. In a related development, President John Mahama on Wednesday, the 8th of July, chaired a National Security Council meeting on the recent floods that affected 7 regions of the country. The meeting received briefing from the Post-Flood Mitigation Task Force and its subcommittees.
It's become a recurring incident, but of course this was far worse than any that we have seen, both because of the vagaries of climate change. It looks like increasingly every year the rainfall is getting heavier, and it means that we have to see what mitigation measures to put in place. And so aside from that too, the pressures of urbanization, Accra being the capital, it is expanding at a very alarming rate, and the desire for land to build is increasingly making people encroach into areas that were formerly reserved for the passage of water. Of course, we've asked the Army to get involved in the flood mitigation measures, and then also NADMO and others are involved in spreading of relief items. Of course, we set up a task force before the incident occurred. They did some limited work in terms of dredging some of the waterways, but the amount of rainfall that fell this time, it was very difficult to contain. Happily, the Minister of Finance has released some money from the contingency fund for us to be able to finance the mitigation measures going forward. We might not be able to completely eliminate flooding because it's a natural disaster that happens not only in our part of the world, it happens in other areas. But we can minimize it and make its effect less disastrous like what happened.
In more news tonight, the Ghana AIDS Commission says reports that about 1,300 out of nearly 100,000 applicants recorded reactive HIV test results during the security screening process should not be viewed as alarming. The Commission, during a media briefing, explained that the figure represents about 1.3% of those screened, which is consistent with Ghana's estimated adult HIV prevalence of 1.49% as at the end of 2024.
The Ghana AIDS Commission has moved to clarify concerns arising from comments by the Minister for the Interior about HIV test results during the recent Security Service recruitment exercise. According to the Commission, an initial reactive HIV test does not mean a person has been diagnosed with HIV. Under Ghana's National HIV Testing Guidelines, every reactive result must undergo an approved 3-test serial testing process before an HIV-positive diagnosis can be confirmed. The Commission is also reminding all institutions that HIV testing must be conducted with informed consent, confidentiality, and professional counseling. Individuals with reactive results should be supported to complete confirmatory testing and, where necessary, be linked to treatment and care.
Screening for employment is a very important aspect of the Labour Act, and we don't determine the processes and the various tests that is being done. The reported figure should therefore not be interpreted as unusual. Confidentiality has not been breached in a way, because they have not been identified publicly. The Commission recognizes that public communication on HIV, if not carefully framed, may unintentionally reinforce stigma and discrimination.
The Commission further stresses that under the Ghana AIDS Commission Act 2016, Act 938, discrimination against people living with HIV in employment and other areas of public life is prohibited.
The laws and the guidelines are clear, and it's for all agencies to obey. This is a human rights issue, and one of the appropriate authorities is SRAJ. So if anyone thinks that he had been unfairly treated, his human rights have been violated, he can approach SRAJ, he can also come to us, and together we will have to sit around a table to solve it.
The Commission warns that inaccurate public communication about HIV can discourage people from testing and seeking treatment, potentially undermining the country's progress in the fight against the disease.
Meanwhile, the Ghana AIDS Commission says processes are far advanced to receive more HIV testing kits and ARTs into the country in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Director for Technical Other Commission, Dr. Fred Nanapoku, who confirmed the situation of a looming short out of the commodities, has assured the general public that the situation will be averted.
What's happening is that at the Central Medical Store, the stock levels is below the threshold that we always want, 6 months of stock. And that is a bit of a challenge. In fact, when you go to the regional stores too, we are also told that in some regions the stocks levels are lower than what is expected. In other places, it's also okay. Others are even more than, in quotes, necessary. So the National AIDS Control Program had made a request to the Ministry of Health to make sure that these commodities are restocked at the central and regional medical stores. And processes have been initiated. And we are being told that we should be expecting some more of the commodities within the next 3 to 4 weeks. And so hopefully that will ensure and will forestall any possibility of stockouts hitting the country.
Away from the health sector, President John Mahama says government alone cannot provide jobs for all Ghanaians, stressing that the private sector remains the key driver of employment and economic growth. The president made these remarks during a meeting with the Kwewu Business Advocacy Group at the Jubilee House in Accra.
President Mahama said the public sector employs only a small fraction of the country's population, making it impossible for government to absorb the growing number of young people entering the job market each year.
Every successful economy is built on strong partnerships between governments and the private sector. We all know that government cannot do it alone. Government has to work hand in hand with the private sector to be able to achieve economic prosperity. And so your presence here demonstrates your confidence in engaging government constructively. And I assure you that my administration remains committed to maintaining an open door policy with the entire Ghanaian business community, and particularly with the Kwewu Advocacy Group. From the first day of this administration, we've been clear that the private sector is not merely a stakeholder. It is the principal engine of economic growth.
The president noted that the role of government is to create a business-friendly environment that enables businesses to invest, expand, and create decent jobs.
What government should do is to create businesses can invest and expand with confidence, expanding their production, creating decent jobs, and competing successfully. And so our reset agenda is therefore centered on restoring macroeconomic stability, currency stability, rebuilding investor confidence, lower interest rates for businesses, improving infrastructure, strengthening institutions, and removing unnecessary barriers that increase the cost of doing business.
The Kwewu Business Forum has seen its successful operationalization for 2 years spanning.
The Accra High Court has ordered lawyers for former CEO of the National Food Buffer Stock Company Limited to bring their application seeking to compel the Attorney General to produce their client in court on notice to allow the Attorney General to respond. Hanan Abdul Wahab Aludiba was arrested on Saturday, the 4th of July, as he was en route to travel to the UK for medical treatment after being granted leave by the court. Lord Edwasari reports.
Led by former Attorney General Godfrey Ebwadame on Wednesday, July 8, the lawyers sought to move their ex parte application for habeas corpus, arguing that Hanan Abdul Wahab Aludiba has remained in custody since his arrest at the Accra International Airport on Saturday, July 4, adding that it has been over 72 hours. Godfrey Ebwadame further stated that they brought the application as an ex parte due to the urgency of the matter. However, the presiding judge, Barbara Tesechawe, noted that it was still important to hear the side of the Attorney General. Dami again argued that he had attached the post of the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Remsai, on Facebook, outlining the arrest of the former NAFCO CEO on Saturday, July 4. He indicated that since the arrest of Hanan Abdul Wahab Aludiba, no charges have been preferred against him, and his continued detention would amount to the contravention of Article 14.3 of the Constitution. But Justice Tetechawe maintained that the defense lawyers ought to notify the Attorney General's office before coming to court and adjourn the proceedings to Friday, July 10 for Hanan's lawyers to move the motion. Meanwhile, the Attorney General is set to move a motion seeking to revoke the permission granted to Hanan by the High Court to travel on July 16. The Attorney General alleges that Hanan falsely presented a defreezing order of landed properties to the bank as defreezing order of bank accounts. The AG also noted in his application that Hanan used an online booking on Boots, a UK beauty retailer, as evidence of medical appointments to seek leave to travel to the UK for medical attention. Lodi Dwasari, TV3 News, Accra.
Meanwhile, lawyers of the former National Food Buffer Stock Company Limited, led by Godfrey Dame, have challenged the Attorney General's office to produce any evidence, including a check, withdrawal slip, or any document to prove that Hanan Abdul Wahab attempted to access funds before he arrived at the airport, debunking what he described as false allegations by the Attorney General against his client. Godfrey Dame disputed assertions that accounts of ex-NAFCO boss remain frozen. He argued that there was no valid order of any court of competent jurisdiction maintaining the freeze because earlier orders made in connection with previous proceedings had already lapsed. In a statement signed by the former Attorney General Godfrey Dame, he also criticized fresh bail conditions imposed by EOCO, describing the 5 million Ghana cedi bail with two justified sureties as excessive and unreasonable.
And away from the courts, residents affected by the June 29 floods in the Ayawaso Central constituency have received relief support from Weave Ghana, a subsidiary of Godrich Consumer Products Limited. The company donated thousands of household products to support families as they recover from the disaster. There's more in this report.
The June 29 floods left many homes and livelihoods devastated across parts of the Ayawaso Central constituency. As residents continue to rebuild, Weave Ghana, a subsidiary of Godrich Consumer Products Limited, has stepped in with relief support aimed at easing the burden on affected families. The company says supporting communities in times of need remains an important part of its commitment to improving lives beyond the products it manufactures. The company donated 12,000 units of air power pockets and 10,000 units of power shots to residents impacted by the floods. Rose Morrison is head of HR at Weave Ghana.
Here with two categories from our portfolio, we have a brand called Goodnight Mosquito Spray. Now, this is quite relevant. It's called Power Shot, right? Out after the floodings, we understand that there's a lot of stagnant waters which actually breeds mosquitoes, and so this would go a long way to get rid of all those mosquitoes and then prevent malaria-borne diseases and the rest of it. We also have this product, our newest baby, which we're very proud of. It's called Air Power Pocket. It's an air refreshener. Okay, so we understand that there's going to be a lot of cleaning and sanitization and all of that. So after that, please use this, hang this in your room to give you the freshest of air that you need. Okay.
Receiving the items on behalf of residents, the Member of Parliament for Ayawaso Central, Tubazu Abdul Rauf, described the donation as timely, noting that the constituency was among the hardest hit by the floods.
The products they've delivered to us are very, very important at this particular point, because when you go around, you see the aftermath of the flood. I want to assure them that this evening, all the homes will receive this product. We are going to ensure that everybody receives their fair share of it.
The donation is expected to benefit thousands of households as recovery efforts continue.
Right, so let's find out what the weather will be looking like this evening and going into tomorrow morning. We are told that rain and thunder-bearing clouds have been observed over the borders of Nigeria and Benin. These clouds are expected to include cloudiness with rain of varying intensity within Oti, Upper East, Northeast and Northern regions from this evening into the night. The conditions are expected to spread to parts of the Ashanti, Bono East, Upper West, Savannah, Bono Ahafo, Western North, Central and Western regions later tonight into the early hours of the morning. However, lower intensity of rain is expected over areas within the Volta, Greater Accra and Eastern regions during the forecast period. Clearly, the entire country needs to be on alert because the rains could come in. Let's look at the figures now.
Weather News segment is brought to you by Syntex.
business modules now to remain profitable in an era of low interest rates.
Speaking at the 2026 Ghana Banking Forum, organized by PwC Ghana, Professor Texan said stable inflation, declined treasury bill rates, and prudent fiscal management point to a prolonged period of monetary easing. According to him, the changing environment means banks can no longer rely predominantly on interest income and must diversify their sources of revenue.
Given what I know from the stability that we are looking at, the policy rates will not necessarily increase. If anything at all, we should look at it going down. And therefore, it is quite clear that banks have to re-strategize. The problem is that when the rates are declining so fast, the repricing happens faster than the strategy of changing your business model.
Echoing the call for transformation, country senior partner at PwC Ghana, Vish Ashagbo, said the banking industry must urgently evolve from traditional interest income-driven institutions into digital transaction-focused financial ecosystems.
Each bank needs to think about where they want to be, which segment of the market they want to play in, and then design their business model accordingly. Because trying to do everything and everybody trying to do the same thing in this low interest rate environment is not going to give us much profitability as it has in the last few years.
But what are the expectations of banks ahead of the next MPC meeting? John Ewa is chief executive of the Ghana Association of Banks.
From what we have seen and a little bit of inflationary pressures that we have seen in the horizon, we don't know how much that will price into the assessment in the outlook of market rates. We believe that perhaps the central bank is likely to hold at the discussion.
In more business news, Mobile Money Fintech Limited, in partnership with the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems Limited and the Digital Transport Workers Union, have launched a new initiative dubbed Ride with Momo. The new development allows commuters to easily pay exact transport fares using their MTN Momo wallets via the GHQR code.
Ghana's transport sector remains largely informal, with cash payment, limited digital integration, and operational inefficiencies. But today, technology is increasingly being introduced to modernize the way the services are delivered. As a result, Mobile Money Fintech Limited has launched Ride with Momo, a digital mobility platform designed to simplify payment, improve convenience, and support a more efficient transport ecosystem. Abdul Razak Ali is the Chief Commercial Operations Officer at Mobile Money Fintech Limited.
Whatever you are, we are trying to bring, you are in a business, right? So we are trying to bring the merchant solution, the ease of doing business into that space, right? To encourage, businesses and drivers who are, again, businesses to adopt, the merchant services so that they can actually enjoy all the, the experiences, the good experiences that a merchant business can bring to their business. Because we know businesses need that level of reduced charges to be able to actually, operate profitably.
The Chief Business Officer for Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System Limited, Akosua Blay, encouraged drivers and commuters to embrace the new digital solution.
Well, I encourage all the transport owners, the Pragia riders, the Uber. Why? Because it enables them to receive money securely in a digital way. It helps also the economy to grow because it means you turn your business around quickly.
Management of Mobile Money Fintech Limited says drivers and fleet partners who subscribe will receive some incentives. They continue to assure the public that they are committed to providing secured digital solutions for all their needs.
That's it for business on News 360. But let's find out how the Ghanaian cedi is faring with the major trading currencies and how the commodities market is looking like.
Kitty Bites contains 12 vitamins?
Yes, 12 essential vitamins that growing bodies need.
So we'll grow healthy and strong. Smart?
Absolutely.
KittyBite Multivitamin Tonic contains all the essential vitamins and nutrients needed for the healthy development of children from age 1 to 12 years. Also available, KittyBite Multivitamin Drops for babies under 12 months. Grow strong, grow healthy with KittyBite. Distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
in the first knockout game ended Croatia's bid to reach the latter stages of the third consecutive World Cup. That's it for the sports segment here on News 360. My name is Bill Ishen. There's more on the bulletin after the break.
My line of work,
across the country's creative community, with artists, media personalities, cultural stakeholders and fans paying tribute to a woman whose work inspired many and brought international recognition to Ghana. Although the cause of her death has not been made public, tributes have continued to pour in on social media, with many describing her passing as a huge loss to Ghana's arts and culture sector. Reacting to the news, several media personalities have expressed their shock and paid heartfelt tributes to the late artist. Sharon Dede Paddy rose to national and international prominence after earning Guinness World Records recognition for the world's largest leaf print painting, a remarkable achievement that showcased her extraordinary talent, determination, and creativity. Her achievement earned widespread praise and brought international attention to Ghana's visual arts. Earlier this year, Ghana's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, publicly celebrated her achievement and announced plans to commission her and other Ghanaian artists to create artworks for Ghana's embassies around the world as part of efforts to promote the country's rich cultural heritage. Another defining moment in her career came in 2026 when she was invited to the Kingdom of Eswatini at the invitation of King Swati III to participate in celebrations marking the monarch's birthday. The invitation was widely regarded as a significant international honor and another proud moment for both the artist and Ghana, further cementing her growing reputation beyond the country's borders. Throughout her career, Sharon remained a passionate advocate for visual artists and creative arts industry. In one of her last interviews with TV3, she called for greater recognition and investment in the visual arts, arguing that discipline forms the foundation of every other art form. According to her, every creative expression, whether music, fashion, sculpture, architecture, film, or design, originates from visual art, making it one of the most important yet often overlooked sectors of the creative economy.
If you look at the tourism sector, attention is mostly on music, drama, that aspect. There is less attention paid on visual arts when it comes to Ghana. One thing that we need to know that the drama, the music, all the arts, they emerged from visual arts. Because if nothing was imagined and nothing was sketched, I don't think that all those things could come into play. Even the dresses we wear, everything, our ways of lives all emerged from visual arts. So I think that should even be the key part of the sector where most attention will be paid, and then it will transfer onto the others.
Beyond her artistic excellence, Sharon was admired for her humility, resilience, and unwavering commitment to inspiring young creatives. Her passing leaves a significant void in Ghana's creative landscape, but her legacy will live on through her groundbreaking achievements, her advocacy for visual arts, and the countless artists she inspired. May her soul rest in perfect peace. And our heartfelt condolences to the family. That's how we wrap up on the entertainment news segment here on News 360. My name is Noella Donko.
Thank you so much, Noella. On the international front, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has ordered a corruption investigation into allegations that a fictitious government agency was set up within his own office, complete with public funding worth $950,000. According to the presidency, the letter from the president's chief of staff creating the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council had been forged. President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday directed the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission to investigate and submit a comprehensive report within 30 days.
Elsewhere, U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to attack Iran hard tonight, hours after saying he thinks the U.S.-Iran ceasefire is over. Trump, who is at the NATO summit in Turkey, added that negotiators on both sides could continue to talk. Trump's comments follow both countries exchanging attacks. Late on Tuesday, the U.S. said that it had fired at more than 80 Iranian targets. On the back of that, we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Martin Asiedu Date.
And I am Portia Gabor, who joined Africans at 10 p.m. for Ghana tonight. Good evening.